Chapter 1. Intertwined Bonds at Twilight. Isabella and Richard, heirs of neighboring kingdoms, grew up together in the majestic halls of Eldoria's castle. Since childhood, they shared laughter and secrets, forming a friendship that transcended the barriers of nobility. The memories of their adventures through the gardens and corridors wove into the fabric of their childhood, creating bonds that neither time nor royalty could break. As the years passed, their friendship evolved, and Richard's gaze toward Isabella became more profound. In the twilight of their adolescence, the castle witnessed the transformation of these bonds from friendship into something deeper, something pulsing in the subtle gestures and glances exchanged in the quiet hallways. The sun, now a silent spectator, watches as Isabella and Richard, amidst the shadows of twilight, explore the gardens that bore witness to the bloom of their friendship. The rays filtering through the foliage create a spectacle of light and shadow, symbolizing the duality of feelings that grew between them. At the top of the hill, beneath the natural arch of flowers, words finally find a voice. Isabella and Richard, after years of companionship, seal a promise that defies the boundaries of royalty. Twilight, their silent confidant, drapes the scene in magic and uncertainty, marking the beginning of an epic saga where intertwined bonds will face the challenges imposed by relentless fate. Richard, Isabella, I can't shake the feeling that this moment is precious, as if we're on the brink of a new journey. Isabella smiles, lost in Richard's intense gaze, unaware of the weight of an imminent separation. Isabella sighs softly. Yes, Richard, the beauty of this place seems more alive today, as if fate is whispering something we have yet to understand. Richard looks at her tenderly, his fingers lightly brushing against hers. Richard, smiling, perhaps it's fate guiding us towards something grand, something we can't yet imagine. I feel that something extraordinary awaits us. Isabella, enchanted by the sweetness of the moment, agrees, unaware that the king's decision looms over them. Isabella, whatever it is, Richard, I want to face the future by your side. Our friendship means the world to me. Richard nods. And to me as well, Isabella. May our paths remain forever intertwined, just like our hearts. In this magical moment, Isabella and Richard seal a promise that defies the boundaries of destiny. The gentle touch of their hands, the exchange of knowing glances, and the whispered words carried by the wind create a bond that transcends the shackles imposed by royalty. As the stars begin to dot the sky, they understand that their hearts are intrinsically linked, even though fate, merciless, is weaving plots that threaten to separate them. Suddenly, the gentle murmur of the breeze is interrupted by the distant sound of approaching hoofbeats. Richard, sensing the change, looks around cautiously. Richard, Isabella, did you hear that? Horses are approaching. Isabella, still wrapped in the romantic atmosphere, frowns slightly, trying to make out the distant sounds. Isabella, whispering, Yes, Richard, it sounds like horses? Could we have been seen? In that moment, the shadows of the night begin to emerge, and suspense fills the air. Out of the twilight steps the majestic figure of Queen Thelma, followed by Isabella's brother, James, on horseback. Queen Thelma, with a knowing smile. Isabella, Richard, it seems our dear twilight was not as secret as you thought. Isabella and Richard, surprised and embarrassed, exchange nervous glances as the Queen and James approach, revealing that they are aware of the forbidden love blossoming between them. James, laughing, Don't worry, your love story is more widely known than you think. Queen Thelma, with affection. Richard, Isabella, our kingdom needs unity, not secrets. Your love may be the key to the peace Eldoria so desperately needs. Isabella and Richard, initially tense, realize that, contrary to their fears, they have found unexpected allies. The twilight that once seemed shrouded in shadows now illuminates with a new perspective as the Queen and James reveal their support for the forbidden love. As they descend the hill, the royal party approaches the grand grounds of Eldoria's castle. The atmosphere is tense, but the tension fades as joyful laughter echoes around. Suddenly, Prince Henry of Marigold, riding his horse, appears like a burst of energy. Prince Henry, smiling. Richard, what a surprise to find you here. Mother said you needed an extra fencing lesson. Richard, surprised, lets out a grin, while Isabella and the others watch the interaction with interest. Richard, laughing. Well, Prince Henry, I wouldn't say I need an extra lesson. I just have a unique style, a more expressive approach. Prince Henry, laughing. Ah, I see. An expressive style in fencing, that must be something interesting. But I'll show you how a true prince wields a sword. The royal entourage halts as Richard and Henry dismount and take up their swords. The impromptu lesson begins, and Henry demonstrates graceful movements and refined techniques. Henry, teasing with humor. Richard, if you keep going like this, our enemies will die of laughter. Richard, joining in the playful banter, responds with a theatrical expression. Richard, dramatic. Prince Henry, I'd rather win over my opponent with charm than with fencing prowess. The scene unfolds with laughter as Henry and Richard continue to train, transforming a tense moment into a light-hearted memory. Isabella watches the interaction between the two princes, realizing that even in difficult times, humor can be a powerful ally. As night falls over Eldoria's castle, Queen Thelma, restless, decides to walk through the silent corridors. Passing by the grand doors of the library, she notices a slight gap and decides to peek discreetly. Curiosity leads her to approach with quiet steps. In the dim light of the library, the Queen observes an intriguing scene. King Cedric and Duke Edmund are meeting, speaking in murmurs that echo between the dusty bookshelves. The grave expressions on their faces indicate the importance of the conversation. King Cedric, Edmund, the union of our families is vital for the stability of Eldoria. The marriage between Isabella and Henry will consolidate our political alliance. Duke Edmund, Your Majesty, I understand the need for the alliance, but forcing a marriage could bring unforeseen consequences. What about the love of the young ones? King Cedric, coldly, love is a luxury we cannot afford. Our interests and the stability of the kingdom come before personal feelings. The marriage will be sealed soon. Queen Thelma, hidden in the shadows, absorbs the words with a worried expression. She realizes that something deeper is at play, something that goes beyond politics. The conversation between the king and the duke remains brief, yet charged with tension and mystery. As the queen slips away quietly, she ponders the fate being crafted in the castle's secret corridors, unaware that the night's shadows hide not only political intrigue, but also dark secrets that threaten to change the course of Eldoria's history.